Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first of a new series I'm going to be starting here on the channel. This series is kind of directed more for role-playing gamers, so probably the miniature gamers probably won't get a lot out of it, but you can listen anyway. But the series involves my solo role-playing tabletop game called Journey to the Overland. And one of the things we're going to be doing in this Journey to the Overland Designer series is just kind of talking about design elements in games, mostly board games / role-playing games, but a lot of it will apply to games in general. And I'm going to try to give you my approach, which I've taken in designing Journey to the Overland, and as I revise it and work on it, to give you kind of an idea of kind of what goes into the game and kind of what I think makes it different. So the first topic that we're going to talk about in this series is what I want to refer to as leveling up your game to match your players. And basically what this topic involves is games that have elements designed that as you get stronger, the NPCs or characters you encounter in the game get stronger as well. Now, that may seem like a very common sense thing to do, and it might not seem like it's something that's worthy of a topic, but let me explain my view of this and kind of what I'm talking about. So say for you start a game and you're a level 1 character, or you're a beginner setting out on a board game, and you encounter a thief, right? And so let's just say hypothetically the thief, there's one thief, he does, let's just say 8 damage when he attacks, right? And so let's just say you get further along in the game and you're going to have another encounter, but now you're level 5. And so when you pull the card for the thief now, it says, check your level. And so you look on the card and you're level 5 now. And now there are 5 thieves. And instead of doing 8 damage, let's just say each thief does 40 damage. Now, there are people out there that will say, well, I love this game because it levels up as you level. The difficulty increases as you get stronger, right? Now, it's the same thief, okay? It's the same thief. The only difficulty that has increased is you. So the game now tells you a thief you encountered, let's just say 4 scenarios ago, that was one thief that did 8 damage. Now, 4 scenarios later, it's 5 thieves and they're doing 40 damage, right? Now, some people may love that because they're like, oh, that was a tough battle when it was 5 of them doing 40 damage. But I think that's a hack, okay? And let me explain what I'm saying. In a real world, or a quasi-real world, all of this is fantasy. In a real world, if you encounter a thief is going to fall within a spectrum. He's a thief, okay? It's not going to change no matter who you are that encounters the thief. So to give you an example, it would be like if you took a normal guy, right, that's just walking through the woods, let's just say Robin Hood, and Robin Hood encounters a thief, right? Robin Hood could probably dispatch the thief, right? Maybe not immediately, depending on whether he has his bow out or a sword or whatever. But now let's put Conan the Barbarian going through the woods, and Conan encounters the thief. Well, simply because it's Conan doesn't mean all of a sudden now the thief is that much more dangerous. It's still the same thief. And of course you can say, well, if it's Conan in his story, it would be 5 thieves and they would they would be wielding, mallets or hatchets or something, instead of Robin Hood coming across a thief wielding a stick, right, or wielding a dagger. And I can understand that. But the problem is, if that's the case, shouldn't Robin Hood at some point encounter 5 thieves wielding a hatchet? And shouldn't Conan at some point encounter 1 thief with a dagger? Right? And so that is the problem that is inherent in these games where they have the increasing difficulty levels, right? It's a hack. Because if you play the game the way it's meant to be played, as a level 1 character, you will never encounter 5 thieves wielding hatchets, right? Which you should run from. Okay, that's what you should do. You should run from them. If you're a level 1 character, it's 5 thieves with hatchets, you should run, right? By the same token, Conan will never encounter 1 thief with a dagger, right? Which Conan should encounter 1 thief with a dagger. Matter of fact, Conan should be able to just knock this guy out with his bare fist. And if you've ever read a Conan comic or the books or whatever, there were plenty of guys Conan knocked out in bars. Just he didn't even pick up his sword. He just knocked them out. Knocked out cold. Okay? And so that is why I do not like this method. And you are starting to see it a lot. I think the game called Gloomhaven, a lot of the playthroughs I've seen, it's in there. Okay? And, I think for some reason, as game designers, we have now started to accept that that's okay. And it's not okay. At least not in my book, it's not okay. Conan should have just as a likelihood of encountering a lone thief with a dagger as Robin Hood. And Robin Hood should be just as likely to encounter 5 thieves wielding hatchets as Conan. And so that's why when I've done Journey to the Overland, and I did it many, many years ago, back when this was not in vogue, you did not have to, match the difficulty of your game to the characters as they're leveled up. I mean, there wasn't this, quote, legacy option in there. You play the game. If you got all powerful, you usually won the game. That was it. You won the game. There was no legacy and ratcheting up the difficulty so you could get, quote, replays. Right? Every reviewer now, this game has amazing replay. Right? Well, is it a good game or not? I mean, I don't really care whether a game has amazing replay. Is it a good game? Right? Is it a good game? Because if it's a good game, you can replay it by starting over with a different character. And that's another problem with these rising difficulty levels. Right? There's no incentive to start over with a different character. Right? If I know the more powerful I get and the more junk and stuff I obtain, well, the game is going to match that, right? And I can just keep ratcheting this up until either 1, I break the game, right? Or 2, I can't get past a certain point, right? I just can't get past a certain character or a foe, right? Right? Then I have no incentive to say, hey, my character is uber powerful. There's really no more threats to him in this game world. I mean, really, he should be a king or a leader or a legend. And I'm going to start a new character now. I'm going to play a female character. I'm going to play a dwarf. I'm going to play an elf. And I'm going to start them from the beginning to the end all over again and see how they do. And that's kind of what separates, I think, Journey to the Overland from a lot of the other stuff I've seen. I've seen the Gloomhavens. I've watched Gloomhaven very carefully. And I've seen a lot of the playthroughs. I've seen a lot of the way it works. You have this card mechanisms that represent your life, and each card allows you to do 4 or 5 different things and stuff. That's not in Journey to the Overland, right? I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not in there, and it's not ever going to be in there, right? Because I don't see playing a role-playing game or a fantasy board game as an exercise in managing your resources, right? You should not feel like when you're playing a role-playing game or a fantasy board game that managing your resources is going to be part of you, quote, beating or winning the game. right? If I've got 5 of these cards and I play them bump, 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 bump in this order, I can get past scenario 1, which will earn me a new card, and then I can use that card and reverse it and get past scenario 2. What is that? Because it's certainly not fantasy and it's certainly not role-playing. It might be a wonderful game mechanic, but it's not fantasy and it's not role-playing. Right? The whole idea of fantasy and role-playing is you create a character, then you push them out the door and tell them go explore the world. Right? And they should be exploring the world. That should be what the gameplay is about. That character exploring and interacting with the world. And that character is inevitably going to encounter certain things that they cannot beat. They cannot overcome. But if you create a good game, you will give them just a slight hint of what they need the next time. Right? And you will leave them a door out. That is why one of the first things I tell people when they complain, well, I played Journey to the Overland and I got killed in the first encounter. And I say, well, did you try escaping? Right? Did you run? Did you evade? I mean, because just about every encounter you can evade or escape. That's an option. Or I tell them, did you hire help before you left town and take somebody with you? Or did you go out by yourself? Or I tell them, did you get a job and try to earn more money to buy better equipment like armor? Right? Because if you roll up your character and you walk out the door and you run into a troll, you probably are going to die in your first encounter. And you can complain and say, well, that wasn't fun. No, it wasn't fun because, frankly, you did not get into the character. You did not get into the game world. You thought you were playing Monopoly. This is not Monopoly, right? There is no set process that you're going to repeat over and over again until you've accumulated enough money and stuff, and then the real game starts. No, this is a fantasy game. You have to imagine how you would do, what you would do if you were an individual in this fantasy world filled with frightening, nightmarish creatures, as well as noble, valiant heroes, right? But one of the things you probably wouldn't do if you were honest with yourself is wake up, throw your clothes on, grab a cheap sword, right? 3 coins, 5 or 6 pieces of bread, and just head all off down the road into some unknown forest, right? You probably wouldn't do that. Anybody that's read Hansel and Gretel wouldn't do that. And it's not my job as the game designer or the game creator to say, well, what if they do that? I should put something in these cards so that they're only going to encounter little weak characters until they're ready for bigger ones. So use card deck 1, but not card deck 2 until you get to level 3 or 4. That's not my job. That's not my job as a game designer to compensate for your lack of common sense, right? It's not my job as a game designer to create a little baby deck of cards for you so you can have some initial fun starting out and feel some successes, right? That's the way I look at it. Now, maybe there are game designers that are willing to do that for you, right? But when I was coming up, the games we played, they didn't do that for you. Right? They didn't do that for you. More likely than not, you went out there, you got killed, and then you started over, and you went back, and after a while, you knew that in order to beat that creature, you needed a silver weapon. And in order to get the silver weapon, you needed to go to the ruined tower first. So you would make your way to the ruined tower, right? Then you might come down that road where you know you might find that creature. That's how we played when I was growing up. There was no don't open deck 4 until you're level 3, right? There was none of that. You had a deck, you had your cards, and you had you, right? And it was up to you to discover the world, right? And to discover, what your character needed or what he had to do to survive in the world. And that's kind of the thinking and the logic that I'm carrying forth in Journey to the Overland. So even as I work on expansions, even as I work on new card decks and new challenges, I'm constantly resisting the urge to, to play into this whole difficulty rating, adjusting the difficulty for the players. Instead, I create something and say, wow, this would be fun. I wonder how they would deal with this when they encountered this, right? But in every one, there's a little bit of a hint. There's a little bit of a hint to let you know, hey, you might want to do this or do that before you go any further. Right? Before you go any further. And a lot of that just is involved in reading the rules and understanding what's available to you. But anyway, I'd like you guys' thoughts. Give me your thoughts on the topic and then what you think about adjusting difficulties and challenges and things like that to match the players. And then also give me your thoughts on what you think of the series. Take care and God bless.